Can you talk to us about your premieres of Helmut Lachenmann?
So Lachenmann, my connection with him came from Heinz Holliger. Holliger was very close to Lachenmann. And when I visited him very early on, that he didn't only listened to my playing, but I stayed at I visited for a few days in Basel. I didn't actually stay overnight at his home, and one of the things he did, he played a bit of the recording that Edward Brunner had made of Lachemann's concerto called A Canto that time, and he told me, you should play this piece. And then a few years later, he had a chance, Holliger had a chance to program that work together with this work of Oliver Messiaen. It's called Concerto Grosso, I forgot, for oboe, cello, piano, and orchestra, which is maybe the last work that he wrote with the Austrian Radio Orchestra. This was in the Konzerthaus in Vienna. And he called me then, this was 1980 something, he called me, asked me to play a canto with him. So, of course, I'm not going to say no. So, of course, I agreed. And one thing that he said was very important is you have to get in touch with Lachenmann and go and learn the piece with him. This is the way. I did that and went to and stayed at Lachemann's home for a few days, and we went over the work and sort of even that time figuring out the different effects that he was notating. It says this was a rather early work of his, and a lot of it was written in not very as specifically as later pieces were written, perhaps we could say. So that, and I wrote down many things. That's the part we went over. It was a wonderful time with him. And well, I should mention that, Lachenmann's music, for those your audience who do not know who he is or don't know his music particularly, very much has to do with, you should say, cracks between tones. So that's why a canto is like unsinking, we can say. So, and he has been able to develop a kind of grammar of these sounds or unsounds, we can say, in between tones, things like that, to create works of really great character. So they're not simply collections of effects, you see, but they have a deep emotional meaning. And a canto in particular is that way. And he wrote it in a certain sense as an accompaniment to the Mozart concerto, or as not an accompaniment, but as as a partner. That's why there is the one section you do have the Mozart concerto coming in and out with little bits like and finally it comes out in a little more. So this experience working with him really affected me greatly in terms of seeing how you can write, how you can utilize, that's better, wider palette, sounds and little details in a way which creates something which is emotionally meaningful. And that has actually affected me as a composer this way. But it's also affected me in my understanding of music, of what music is, how we as people, as a humankind, are affected by sound. So anyway, then went and I performed the concerto with Carter, and I have to say that he had great resistance from the members of the orchestra, as Lachenmann wanted certain string effect things, and people, come on, lighten up. People, some were very good, but the performance finally, I thought, was very good. And then after that, I had little bits of contact with Lachenmann, but not so much. Anyway, I visited him when he had in Stuttgart the performance of his opera, Little Match Girl, I think it was, however the actual title would be, which I thought was very remarkable work. And then later when he was in New York, we were together. But it was basically that one time working on the concerto with him that has stayed with me. And then he got in touch with me when they were publishing a book about him together with recording, and he wanted to use that performance for the recording, and then also to clean up the clarinet part. So he asked me for various explanations of what we actually went through during the time I was there to get these little symbols to sort of explain them a little better. And yeah, I did as well as I could with him to sort of go back and go through the piece and explain different things, that how we went through it. And so I believe that this is what was published finally, or republished, I should say. And then the recording of the performance is available. And that I thought was very good performance. It's because there would be things, which would play, and it's in the time when we were working together, there were certain there should be beauty, and I thought in this performance there was. But unfortunately, I didn't play it again afterwards. So it's just that one performance I gave, and I always, even to this day, I feel I'd love to play it again. And I thought it would be great to perform that work, and then Mozart concerto as Mozart wrote it for Bassett, since that Bassett at the time Mozart wrote, was also that the piece was also something which was in fact very unusual. So this is, I don't know if I will actually ever get a chance to do it, but I'm still, even to this day, hoping that something will come of this idea I have. So that's Lachenmann.
A concert that you will always remember?
It's one of the greatest concerts I've ever been to. This was 1976 in Moscow at the Great Hall of the Moscow Conservatory. And it was a recital of Sviatoslav Richter. And that recital has really stuck in my mind. And what is fantastic is the Japanese television recorded that recital. In the second half of it, the first half were certain pieces, including the first of the Beethoven sonatas, Opus 2, and then the Schumann Vienna Carnival, things like that. But the second part was Chopin, and it was absolutely remarkable. And as I mentioned, Japanese television recorded that, something I didn't know about at all. And it's not too long ago, I received a message from a friend in Japan that this on YouTube, you can see this recital. And not only that, this is right before the last work in the which was the fourth Chopin scherzo. The camera panned to the audience, and I'm in the picture at that time. I couldn't believe it. But that was one of the remarkable concerts. And there are others. I mean, mostly, earlier when I was in high school, was absolutely brilliant recital of David Oistrakh, his favorite pianist, Frida Bauer, and especially the Prokofiev first sonata, that violin sonata that he played, I thought was really very memorable. And I can go on to different things, but maybe that's enough for this. But I should mention that it was great that I was able to hear the performances of not only this performance of Richter that I mentioned was particularly notable, but different performances of Richter while I was a student in Moscow, because I got there maybe a little bit too late in a certain way, because it's the year before the Shostakovich had died and Oistrakh had died. Rostropovich, great cellist, had left, you see, so it's like, but Richter was there, and actually the pianist Gilels also. I heard in quite spectacular concerts. So they still remained. And I was able to. And then I met many other wonderful musicians while I was there as well. But yes, that one concert of Richter stands out as something very, very special.
You have taught at the Juilliard School of Music since 1989. What do you appreciate in your students?
I mean, it's a big topic to talk about students because you have to talk about how to teach, etc., as well. But what do I appreciate in students? I appreciate their desire, you see. Because music is, we cannot look at music as a profession in a certain way. It's not like becoming an accountant this way or, something else, some other kind of profession like that. And it's when we look at the amount of effort and the discipline it takes to become a musician, and then we look at the amount that people get paid, etc., that doesn't add up, you see. So music is a calling, and that was for myself too, because I went to university. I didn't major in music. I didn't go to conservatory. I went to the Moscow Conservatory, but even when I was there, it was a kind of, stažировka. It's a kind of postgraduate something that was mostly for foreigners when I was there. So I never acquired a degree in music, we can say. So in my case, I could have gone to different, perhaps academic or scientific disciplines, but it's music which sort of pulled me always, you see. So it is the desire, the calling that I want to say that is most important in music students, and what I try to see in music students. And then what I have to do is to try to give them tools so they can refine their skill and be able to exploit, you could say, the desire that they have to find their way in the world of music. So this is a short answer.
A funny story that you can share with us?
I mentioned one thing that happened to me. I was the protagonist in this story. It's still somehow, even though this years and years have passed since it happened, but it makes its way around the musical world, I should say. And that is, this has to do with a concert I played for many years with the group Orpheus. Sent in New York, and I've often played concertos with them as not only sort of in the ensemble, and then I would play on concerto that we'd play. So I played, in fact, did the New York premiere of Carter Concerto with Orpheus, which was quite remarkable performance, which we did without conductor. When you do pieces without conductor, especially pieces like that, people really have to know the piece. It's not like when I went and sight read with Musica Viva. I really, now I know both those pieces, Mirror in Which to Dwell and Triple Duo. I know them incredibly well, but that was after the time I played. Then I started to study them. That was trial by fire. But anyway, so this is with the Orpheus Chamber. Now I didn't play, like all the members of the group, didn't play every single concert with them. And they had a European tour, which I wasn't able to do. And I was playing in a festival with the violinist Sergio Luca in Oregon. This was in the summer of whatever year it was. Bother trying to recall the actual year. And I got a call from, at that time, it was the founder and sort of, you could say, director in a certain way, CEO, or whatever you want to call him now, of the group, Julian Pfeiffer, who played cello in the group also at that time. And he said that, by the way, we made a mistake. This was in Hohenems, Austria. We programmed the Mozart Clarinet Concerto, and we're doing it we're supposed to do it in whatever it is, couple days or something like that. And so I was on the west coast of the United States. That says, do you think you can come over and do it? I said, okay, let's try. We have to see how the flights work, et cetera, et cetera. So I was able to do it. So then I flew to New York, and then from New York I flew to Zurich. And then from Zurich I was picked up by a car by the manager. His name was Till. And we drove then to Hohenems, and the concert was an afternoon concert. So So I don't know, I forget when I got there. Was it like 11 a.m. in the morning, or maybe 10 a.m. So I took a nap for about an hour or so, then got sort of ready. And we didn't really have a rehearsal. And they also played, I think, A major, it's 16, the Serenade of Brahms. I think it's another piece on the program. And we had the Mozart Concerto. So I got ready, went up to it on stage, we were playing, and it was going on. Then the slow movement, and then we came to the recap of it. After I must have improvised some kind of going into it, as I usually have done, and I started to think, and then as it went on, I dozed off for just a split second, like, and then I went back. The only time that I've actually kind of fallen asleep in a concert. I mean, there were extenuating circumstances, of course. Considering I was on the West Coast, I came and played immediately. But that story has followed me for years and years.
Any advice for the clarinetistas del futuro?
Very important advice. I mean, we live in an age, I see that classical music is in a way not appreciated, not thought of as something which is very necessary for humanity, but it is. And I see, of course I'm prejudiced, but I see this music as one of the great achievements of humankind. It's great. And if we're musicians, as musicians, we have to be proactive. We have to be ambassadors for music. We have to show the world, explain to the world the importance of this and what music can do, because what music does is it can bring people together in a way which is both not competitive and not aggressive, but actually feeds on cooperation. And this is very important, you see, so that musicians now have to be more than simply players of their instruments. They have to show what is wonderful about people, about humankind. And, there are many ways to do that, but you have to have that in mind. So it's a great desire also for the betterment of humankind throughout the world.